Hey guys, I'm under the Jeep. I'm replacing my steering box. I wanted to show you how to replace your power steering hoses. This one here is the pressure side and this is the low pressure side. So high pressure, low pressure. It looks really easy now because I don't have my box in it. But I just wanted to show you this because there's a ton of videos on how to replace your steering box, but none on how to replace your hoses that I could find. So I wanted to share this with you. You don't have to pull your steering box to replace the hoses, but you do have to drop it down to get to the hoses. So I'm going to put the steering box in to the point where you have to drop it, and I'm going to do it in the reverse order and show you how to put it back together since I have it all apart. Here's where the steering box goes. It connects to this and here. You see that? I think you can see that. Alright, so that's where we are. So I'm gonna put the steering box in to the point where you would change the hoses. The reason I don't really have an issue with the hoses, but the reason why I'm changing them is because I have 172,000 miles on the Jeep, and those hoses are original. There's O-rings on them. You can't buy like just the O-ring. I mean, you can match them up or try and match them up, but they're so old and distorted. I just thought this is a lot of work, and I didn't want to pull the steering box back out if I didn't have to. And I got the parts from Napa, and both hoses together were less than $50, so I decided just to replace the hoses. So that's where I'm at, and before I put the steering box in, I'm going to show you the top side where the hoses go on the top side. It's not too tough. The hardest part of the job will be dropping the steering box down. So here we go. Alright, we're on the top side. All I did is I pulled this bottle off, it's an overflow, and it just pops up, and then I just moved it out of the way, like that. Just popped it up, moved it out. And then here's your steering pump on the top. And I just want to remind you that this is a 98, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the same for 97 to 2001, and I think the 2002s and newer have a different steering setup out of a Chrysler. So this may only be for 97 to 2002. So this hose right here, it's on the top. It looks like it's pretty easy to get to. That's the high pressure hose that I'm replacing. And then down here, I know it's really hard to see. Let's see if I can get it there, kind of upside down. Right, put my finger on it, right here at the end of my finger, which you can't really see over that other hose, but there's one that just slips off, and then it goes down to the bottom where you saw. But as you can see, it's a pretty open area where it goes. There's nothing really in the way, so I think replacing the hoses is going to be fairly easy, other than, like I said, you got to drop down the steering box. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the steering box to the point where you would drop it down and get to the hoses, and then I'll be back to show you how this goes. Alright, thanks for watching, stay tuned. Okay, we're at the point now where you would be if you're just replacing the lines. So you can see the steering box is just hanging there, and you can get to the lines. One thing I want to warn you about is that if you can see the one on the passenger side, the hole, and the one on the driver's side, the passenger side hole is your power line, your pressure line, and the other one is your return line. You don't want to mix those up or it won't work. So you can see my lines back there just hanging. And to do this, all you have to do is remove anti-rod off of the pitman arm, and then remove these 3 bolts on the frame to hold your steering box on. And then if you have an anti-rock, which I do, can you see that? Then you have to remove it to get to that top bolt. Sorry it's so shaky. There's a lot of tools and stuff down here. That's where we are. So if you're going to replace those lines, tie rod, these 3 bolts, and then just lower it down so you can access the lines right there. And like I said, I'm going to replace them, and so here we are. So we're going to go in the backwards order. Rather than remove this, I'm going to show you how to put it all back together. To remove it is the reverse order, as the manual would say. Hang with me. Now we're at the top, and I showed you before the lines. You can see the pressure line right there, and then below that is the low pressure line, the return line. So we're going to take the high pressure line off first because it's kind of in the way. So I'm going to try and do this one-handed and try not to be too shaky. So we're going to loosen this up. Alright, we got it. So we're just gonna drop it down through the bottom. And then we're gonna take this hose off, and it just has a hose clamp with a pair of pliers. But there's no way that I can get that and hold the camera. So I'm just gonna pull that real quick and drop that through the bottom, and then we'll be in business, and I'll be right back. So I got both the hoses off. The rear one, the bottom one, the return line, just slips on with the hose clamp, and I kind of ruined the hose clamp with the pliers getting it off because it's been on there for so long. This one right here. So I got the clip off, or the clamp off, and then I actually had to cut the hose. I couldn't get the hose to slip off because it's been on there for so long. This is a 98. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the new hose on, and I'm going to slide it in from the bottom, put a little white grease around it, put a clamp on it. Again, I can't really film it because I don't have anywhere to put the camera, and I need both hands, but I will show you as soon as I get done and explain it, and you will totally understand it. And if you don't, then you can feel free to leave comments, ask questions. I'll answer all the comments. Also want to let you know that I use that on the other end that goes into the steering box. I'm going to put some white lube on the end, and I'll show you that. And I'm going to put a little bit of white lube on the hose so it slips on nice and easy. And then I'm going to put a hose clamp on it, and you'll see. And the good thing about using white lube is once it gets warm, it melts and turns into oil, and it'll just mix with your oil. So white lube's good for lubrication while you're assembling parts. So that's where we are, and stick with me. I'll be right back, and I'll show you when I get the lower hose on, and I think you'll understand how I did it once you see it. Stand by. Just so you see them, this one here is the return line, and it is part number 7-6156. if you want to replace that. I had to special order it, but it was in the warehouse, so I got it the same day. This one they have in stock. This is the pressure line. And this part number is 7-2939. And I think both of them together were just under $50. So let's get them installed. Okay, here's the return line. See, I put some white lube in the end of it. And then I need to put this, oops, I need to put this hose clamp on it so when I get it in, I can tighten it up. So here we go. Alright, we're just going to set it right there for now. I'm going to put you down and then I'm going to stick that on the end there and just kind of keep it loose so if I need to twist it at all, then I'll tighten it up when I'm done. Okay, I got the top hose on. Let's go down to the bottom and put the O-ring on and get it started. Okay. So we have some white lube and the O-ring. Okay, here's the O-ring. It's green. You see that? We're gonna get this nice and wet with this white grease. Get it nice and lubed up. Alright, that looks good. And we'll take this new hose over here to get rid of this white lube. Gross. And we'll take this new hose right here and we'll put the O-ring on it. Like so. Make sure it's still nice and lubed up, which it is. And then, let's get, what hose is this? Let's get this hose out of the way. That looks like it's a drain hose the vent hose for the diff. Alright, and then we'll just get this started in here. Okay, remember the return hose goes on the driver's side. It's kind of rubbing on the steering box. It takes a size 18 wrench. So we're just going to tighten this down. And really we kind of got to get this one tight because we can't really get to this one after this. The other one we could probably get to with some kind of crowfoot or something, but this one's going to be buried underneath the radiator. So we're just going to go ahead and tighten it up. Not too tight, but that's good. And then I don't want it resting on the steering box, so I'm just going to give it a little tweak to get it off the steering box. Okay. Still not quite enough for my taste. So let's just give it a little more of a tweak. There we go. And hopefully that gives me enough room for the pressure side, which I'm going to go get right now. And we're going to do the same thing, do the top first, and then drop it down, and then do the bottom. And then we'll put the steering box up. So again, I can't do that with the camera, sorry about that, but I hope all this is making sense so far. We had to drop the steering box to attach the line. Once we get it attached on the top, we'll keep it loose so it can swivel and move. And then we'll get the bottom one just tight. And then we'll put the steering box up, make sure that everything looks good, and then we might give it a little extra tweak on the pressure line. But I'll show you how that goes. Okay, I got the top on. It takes an O-ring like the bottom, but don't worry because both the O-rings are the same size. It takes the same O-ring, but the top one takes a 16mm wrench. I just put it on there. It's kind of wrenched, but you can see it's still loose, so that if I need to change a position on the bottom, it's loose. So I'll put the bottom on, I'll put the O-ring on the bottom, put the bottom on, tighten the bottom, put the steering box up, make sure nothing rubs, and then take care of the top stuff when I'm done. So, but I want to tell you, it's important to know that when you're putting this in, do the top first, start the top first, because it needs to be in the exact position, and the threads are so tight that you have to go so slow, and make sure you don't cross thread it. It'd be really easy to cross thread this, so make sure you take your time when you do this and it'll go okay. Maybe even put a little WD-40 or PB Blast or something, just a little bit on the threads just to keep it going in smooth. So that's my suggestion. So let's do the bottom. Just like before, we're going to put some white lube on the O-ring. Kind of doing that off camera while you're staring at the steering box. Can't believe why it's taken me so long to do this job. Even though I don't really have a place for the camera, it still takes a little bit of extra time to set up the camera and film the camera. This job really doesn't take that long, and so far I would say it's a little scary thinking, oh yeah, I gotta pull the steering box to replace these lines. But really it's super easy. It would have even been easier if I didn't have anti-rock. It's kind of stupid I had to take that off to get to the steering bolts, or the steering box bolts. But it is what it is. So we're just gonna kind of take it nice and slow, like I said. The top one is a 16 wrench to put on, and this bottom one is an 18, and it's going in kind of rough. So I think it's because the box is too much of an angle. So let's see if I can adjust for that. You gotta get it just right, and it's so kind of hard to find that just right, especially when it's at an angle, you're at an angle, everything's at an angle. Okay, I think I finally got it. It's a bummer that they're so tight going in, that they're so easy to cross thread. But you got to get it just at the perfect angle. Let's see how that's screwing in nice and easy with the wrench. I don't have to fight it. So I think it's good. So we're just gonna tighten this baby up. I know I told you not to tighten it up, but I can see that it's already preformed pretty good. And again, I want to get it off the steering column, so I'm sorry, off the steering box. So I'm going to tweak that out just a bit right there. Make sure it's not on the box and it's not touching each other, which it is not. So that's good. So we're just going to go ahead and tighten up these lines. Just make sure they're extra snug. I don't want to go too tight because then they won't ever come off. These things are so touchy. Again, the bottom ones are both 18s. And the top is a 16 and a hose clamp. So it looks like we're ready to go back up with the steering box. Looks kind of dark. I hope that turns out good. Maybe if it doesn't, I can entertain you some other way. Tell you a joke. I don't know. Anyways, up we go. Up, 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 up. Make sure that it doesn't bind. Like that. Up, up, up. And it's binding. Looks like we can come a little bit closer to the frame. And up, up, up. And up, up, up. And I don't think my jack goes high enough. So I'm gonna lift this up and move this block to go under the pitman arm. And see how that goes. Looks like we're closer. I'd like to get more block under there though. Okay, that looks good. Now if I can't quite get it high enough, my jack's binding now and the steering linkage. So let's come back down a little bit. Move the jack. Try not to hit the camera. Okay. So close. I need a flashlight. So I finally buttoned up the bottom, and I wanted to show you that here are the power steering hoses. They go up to the top. You can't even see them from here, but they're not rubbing on anything. They're bent perfectly. I really like the Napa parts. They look like quality so far. And what I did to button this up was these 3 bolts. 1, 2, and 3. That's what holds the steering box to the frame. And then I put my anti-rock back and bolted it. And then my tie rod, or my drag link, I put on the pitman arm right there to button up the bottom. So the bottom is all done, ready to go. I still gotta finish up the top. Like I said, let's take a look. So up here on the top, I still have to tighten down the the pressure line. And the return line, I have the clamp, it's all the way down on the bottom. So I just gotta clamp that. I probably should have done it before I put the pressure line on, but I think I can finagle a screwdriver down there. And then tighten it up. And then put fluid in it, and I think we'll be buttoned up. So I'm gonna put you down again. So when I was putting the steering box on, I don't know if you should just replace the steering box bolts or not, but it said to torque it to 70, and I snapped a bolt. And so I'm on a time crunch, so I just had to get it out. And that's why I didn't film screwing the box in, because I had to extract this bolt. So what I did was I got my Dremel out and I carved a slot in it, and then I just screwed it out with a screwdriver backwards. It was pretty slick. I wish I would have filmed it, but that's what I did. Now back to the regular scheduled program. We have the hose clamp on. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, you can see that. Let's zoom in. Whoa. Okay, enough of that. And the top is tight. Everything is routed nice. The hoses are nice. They look good. They're not hitting anything. And so next is the fluid. So what I'm gonna do, it's completely empty. So 97 to 2002 use regular power steering fluid, and I just use the Valvoline. I like the Valvoline. But 2002 and up, or 2002 to 2006, I guess, use the automatic transmission fluid plus the Chrysler stuff, because 97 through 02 has the Chevy Saginaw box, and the 2002 to 06 has a Mercedes box. So that's why it takes different fluids. So I'm just going to fill this all the way up, and then I'm going to start the engine, and then I'm going to let it run for a second, and then I'm going to shut the engine off, fill it back up to where it's supposed to be, and then slowly turn the wheels left and right to try not to cause bubbles. So if I get bubbles, then it's going to have to sit and wait, and it's going to take a while to bleed all this out, but I have to bleed it all out. So that's where I am. Okay, there's the power steering fluid I'm using. I like this. I bought way too much of it, but that's fine. It has a shelf life. Anyways, I just wanted to catch you up. I filled it all the way full. See, can you see in there? I think you can kind of see. How about that? There we go. So I filled it all the way up, full. I put the lid on it, then I started it, let it run for a second, and then of course it just immediately went empty. And so then I went back and I filled it again, not quite so full, but full. And then it started to work. Tires started to turn. So I went from lock to lock, and I got a lot of bubbles. So I filled it to the cold setting, and now I'm just gonna let it sit. We're gonna go have dinner, and it's gonna take a couple times to let it bleed out, but I'm gonna let the bubbles dissipate, and then I'll create more, and then I'll do it again, let it sit. Pretty soon it'll be bled out. We're gonna call this done. So my final thoughts are that it wasn't a tough job. I would say 3 out of 5 maybe. And really the hardest part was lining the steering box back up, but it's doable. It's just awkward. It's heavy, there's no flat spots, and my jack was just barely not high enough. This is a 98 TJ 4-liter with 4-inch Curry lift and Curry correct link steering, and it was just enough clearance to get in there and do this without even pulling a wheel. I didn't need a jack to jack it up. I did it all sitting on the wheels. So I hope this helps somebody, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to comment. I'll be glad to answer them. And if you like it, give me a thumbs up. Helps the channel, and subscribe. There's going to be more of these coming. So thanks for watching. Until next time, I hope you are doing something amazing today. Thanks for watching.